So if you've never seen someone give you the stink eye, I mean, it's like this cartoon-like thing where one eye is like bug-eyed and the other one is smaller. But no, it's a stare of disgust, and with disgust as stink. So a stink eye could be someone who has just utter disgust staring at you, disdain, and the amount of displeasure in this glare. It could be as someone scared and confused. This can be like if someone's has just seen a ghost and they're looking at you, and then you would say, "You're looking at me as though you've just seen a ghost." And this is so funny because it's like the past tense would be the prefix of the initial conversation. So now we're ghost doubles as things that are of the past because it would be the soul of someone who has not yet found like their place. And so like this displacement would of course be like where they're in line with your life, so yours isn't over, but there is past due from their passing. So no, this whole thing is one way in describing when someone has the life sucked out of them and they look so bad because it was like something in their body that didn't quite measure up, and now they're bent out of shape. And people can get bent, and really anyone can get bent when we're playing with what adjuvant is. And I'm using this so loosely because you can patent anything. Virtually everything is an ad. We talked about the virtual web yesterday. I can't elaborate enough how important it is to note how there's certain things that are not yet made, but if you make a whole bunch of sloppy copies and spill them out everywhere so that no one can find the difference of what it is and make people confused out what a normalcy biased is, then you can actually make someone believe that there's something of a technology that isn't one. All right, so this was all to negate what I didn't want to talk about. So the precursor of the prefix would be eccentric, is someone who is loud, a loud mouth. It's always so funny at people, they get such confidence in what they're saying when they're a guest speaker because they have a platform that's been granted. And so like when you're in a parking lot, there's a lot in the lot, and so nothing is granted because a lot of things are arbitrary. I should know I'm in one of them. And then it's so funny, you see this in small commercials because they only have like 3 or 4 lines in 30 seconds. So those lines they know ahead of time, and they get such confidence in it. And so the guest speaker too, they know what the platform is granted, and then their message is also a given because they know what they've been invited to say. And so it's always such confidence behind these things is like telegraphed so funny. The thing that also can be broadcasted everywhere was yesterday was senior day, and so it was just always on the radio. When I say radio, I use it loosely as anything that is telecommunicated through like a speaker system. Just calling it a radio is one way in getting over on wider subjects. But for applying it to wider subjects, you need to have something familiar. And with familiarity is one of two things. I'm not against pagans, people who go around and do stuff to the environment. One guy, he has a glass ball and he goes around and he takes pictures of it. There's another person who I know, and they said that they've had these orbs around, and I've seen pictures too when there's these orbs and they go around in people's rooms, and I don't know, it's a thing, I guess, and then it only happens once in a blue moon. And so when you're going to have one and not the other, it's And hold on and get seat buckled because it's about to get abstract. Once in a blue moon, I see like a spark the size of a piece of dust, and it just is for a split second. And I think it very well may be like this thing behind my eye, an eye floater, trying to get reconnected. But nevertheless, it's always in synchronicity of the environment around it. So I dare say to speak that it is the environment and not the thing within my eye. Really brings a whole new meaning to product of an environment. But no, if you tell this to a therapist, they'll write you off uh, as a diagnosis of something. So be careful if you're talking loosely, and then that'll ruffle a lot of feathers. No, here's one. It's if there's a hairy hurdle. This is why I couldn't remember what I was getting offset a moment ago by default with the prefix. In a sticky situation, and there's a hairy hurdle. The more that this is a tip of the hat to getting tarred and feathered in the past. They tried to make people get a punishment that was equal to what their wrongdoing was. And so there's nothing worse than getting sticky and then having stuff that is put lightly on top of stickiness, because then it makes it for a really uncomfortable material, tarred and feathered. No, but in a sticky situation, if there's a hairy hurdle, and this is what I don't want people to do with when there's all this technology that's getting invented, to have like these things that are just like so arbitrary, uh, that in 100 years time they'll look at us like it was a joke with these props. When you hear something like, and this is becoming more of a thing when establishments are getting more tight because they don't want to get closed down. So getting stuff past the front desk, I heard like this sound inside of a place, and it almost sounded as though it was a lawn chair. And so to make guessing, it could have just been a walker, because a walker and a lawn chair both have that metal frame. No, but nevertheless, it would be me just hearing something. But imagine if people had these props and it was more and more extravagant and elaborate, where it would be almost as though it was in imitating the tar and feathered with the hairy hurdle in a sticky situation, having these adjectives be denounced in these descriptions of being like more and more intricate with these types of depictions. And then that with background noises, and then with the of course pixels. If like a pixel's a background, and then if background noise is another thing, these two are things that are really lightly taken. And when there's like backgrounds of things that are lightly taken, you can have these experiments where in the empty vacuum of the universe, it's a thing, and then the thing behind that would be I guess nothing, just a whole bunch of quantum little tidbits of fluctuations. So it would be very much so that would be like tarred and feathered, or like a sticky situation with a hairy hurdle. If you're trying to get like the raw data of anything, you would do those two things: the quantum fluctuation and the vacuum of empty space, because they're always there and you can't go back behind one or the other. And this is why particle accelerators are trying to rip stuff apart, uh, two and two. And then CRISPR gene editing, the opposite of this, is sewing stuff together. It's no surprise it's probably doing the same thing, two and two. But nevertheless, is the this is all like A1 material. I'm just losing my breath. It's all fantastic. Shoot. I forgot what was the other thing. Um, in the future with these orbs and then dust that like sparks. These are like in the future, if someone creates material where it would be like a camera, but it's an orb, and so it's so lightly put where it would just go around, and already it's this stuff, these orbs. It's not just the person who said that their kid saw this orb inside of their playpen each night. It's other people have claimed to see these orbs, and so like it's, you know, maybe in the future it's like all these orbs would be equal to like how South Park depict these motor scooters in cities that you just drop and they're everywhere, or these drones. They go around and they buzz and they're everywhere. In the future, what if it's just these orbs, and that's how people communicate instead of holding a phone out like what I'm doing? Wouldn't be bad, but it's just like once it's there and everyone has one, it'll be the same depiction as South Park was preferencing. And so it's that, and then along with perhaps like the trigger would be like this piece of dust that just has this really glare and goes out really quickly, like these things, but smaller than this. I don't even want to like perfuse that, but you know what I'm saying, stuff like that. But so it would be like, imagine if like the smart dust was like a car, and so like an entire car and how you fix it is just like the difference of the orb to like this piece of dust that does like this really quick 1 second burst. And so in the future with like metamaterial and then smart dust, what if that's like the makeup of all this raw material, and it's just like how to negate from that would be knowing like not to get stuck in the system and be a dog who's happy there, who's tied to a chain. This is how understanding and knowing the particle table and the table of elements, and so that you know what is good and then what is a sloppy copy ahead of time, so stuff invented doesn't get overblown out of proportion in the future, and is then the permanent preset for what normalcy is, because that sounds synthetic AF if what I just said were the future, and we're so slowly behind and we're just having arbitrary stuff define that. That would be a joke on its face. And slowly but surely, I think that's what's occurring. And also how to combat everyone getting like sold to this cheap material in the future, because it's just like the best, the top of the heap, is how puzzling stuff is and patterns, reinventing the textile to make it so that laundry doesn't get stinky. There's some cloths that are always stenched, some colors and stuff that fade, you know what I'm saying? And so like you can't have like sewing, you can't sew this material that shirts have, but if you have a textile that's reinvented so that you can, it would be the difference between crochet and fine knit. And this wheel is bent, so it is every like half a turn it rubs up because it's bent out of shape. And so like this is kind of like this one wheel where it has like this jaggedness, but if you have 4 wheels that are jaggedness or just 2 of them, they cancel out in these rotations, so it's actually like a smooth ride. I forget which toy this is, but one of them has that. And then it's sort of like this knuckles and teeth on a case. When you shut a case, it has like this certain way where it collapses into its crevices, and this is at Starbucks, and this is one case. And this is how you like handle things with patterns aside from textiles, and in numerology it's depicted properly. And so combating having the particle table and the table of elements with what I just described for material is how to combat sloppy copies of cheap makes of the future.